I'd like to wish everyone good afternoon. And this afternoon, we will continue with the teaching on the sadhana of noble Avalokiteshvara, all-pervading benefit for beings. Now, as I said this morning, the Noble Great Compassionate One, or Avalokiteshvara, is in general the essence of the compassion for all sentient beings of the six realms. The reason is that Noble Avalokiteshvara is the union of the compassion of all the Buddhas combined into one, appearing in the form of the deity. So he represents the compassion of all the Bhagavan Buddhas. For that reason, he has the compassion for all beings of the six realms in general, and in particular for the people of Tibet, of the snowland of Tibet, who are his disciples. So, Noble Avalokiteshvara is recognized as the special deity of the snowland of Tibet. So Tibetan Buddhists and Tibetans have a particular karmic connection with him, and especially he has the particular resolve and has made particular aspirations to protect evil and wicked people. So for that reason, the practice of Noble Avalokiteshvara is especially important. Practicing Avalokiteshvara is particularly important. Generally, there are various Avalokiteshvara sadhanas for all of the different four classes of Tantra. But in this context, we are discussing the one by the Siddha Tangtang Gyalpo. The Mahasiddha Tangtang Gyalpo himself is quite well known throughout Tibet as one of the greatest Mahasiddhas. He had visions of Avalokiteshvara and Hayagriva, Tara, and many other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, repeatedly seeing their faces as if he were meeting them in person. This happened many times. And in particular, when he saw Avalokiteshvara in person, what Avalokiteshvara said to him was, "I am your spiritual friend or teacher." And then Avalokiteshvara told him to accomplish Bhaktist activities by way of the six-syllable mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, and to guide all wandering sentient beings to the places of liberation, to bring them to liberation. It's the instruction he gave him, and because of that instruction, Tangtang Gyalpo wrote this sadhana, all-pervading benefit of beings. So this sadhana is unlike others. You could say it is rich in blessings. Its blessings are especially powerful. It is meaningful for everyone who makes a connection with it. Everyone who does is like taken care of by Avalokiteshvara. This is the particular purpose of this practice. So this is something we need to understand in particular. It's a special feature of this practice, the all-pervading benefit of beings. So this morning I spoke at the preparations going for refuge and rousing bodhicitta. So the practice, the sadhana, has 6 sections, and when you divide it into these 6 sessions, that is the first, and we've completed it. So the second section is visualizing the deity. Now, visualizing the deity begins, as it says in the text, above the crown of myself and all beings, and then continues all the way to the line. He is the union of all sources of refuge. So that is the meditation on the deity. Now, the way we should meditate on the deity is so the way to meditate is that we visualize ourselves in our ordinary form. That means like the way we usually appear. So we don't visualize ourselves as the deity at first. So around ourselves, just as we visualized them when we went for refuge, are all sentient beings. So they're surrounding us. They're all our friends, enemies, parents, and all sentient beings. We visualize them and imagine them in that way. And we visualize that above the crowns of each of those beings and ourselves, there's an 8-petaled white lotus. And at the center, there's the corona of the flower. And so in the middle, the center of that flower, there is a full moon disk. So we should visualize that. And on top of that moon disk, there's a white syllable Shri. It's like a pearl, white and glowing. So we visualize the white Shri in that way. And so what that white letter Shri represents is the compassion of all the Buddhas. And so that's what we imagine it represents. It is compassion appearing in the form of a letter. From that white Shri, there shine uncountable infinite white lights like rays of moonlight. And they radiate to all the world realms in the 10 directions, filling them all entirely. They shine and fill the entire world, all the world realms, and the light rays touch everything in all directions, that we imagine that the light also fills all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of all directions. So when we imagine that that light is filling space, then on the tips of each ray of light, there are offering goddesses, where we imagine making untold, inconceivable offerings to all of the Buddhas and their children in the 10 directions. So that is what we imagine when that light strikes all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. Likewise, the moment those light beams strike all ordinary sentient beings, we imagine that they are freed from all illness, sins, misdeeds, and obscurations. Similarly, the places where they live, so whether the abodes of the gods and the demigods, or the places of the 3 lower realms, all of them all of those realms are purified. And we imagine that they're transformed into the pure realm of Sukhavati, just beautiful, joyous realms. So once that light is shined out, then when it gathers back in, imagine that all the blessings of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are gathered in the form of light and dissolve into that Shri. And when they dissolve in that Shri, the inconceivable amounts of light and power dissolve into that Shri, and because of that dissolving, then the power of it seems like it explodes and breaks. It's like that light breaks up into the form of light, and after that, white disintegrates, after that Shri disintegrates, it transforms. It transforms into the form of noble Avalokiteshvara. We imagine that it becomes noble Avalokiteshvara, white in color. And then imagine that lights of the 5 colors shine from his body, filling all of the realms and all of the 10 directions. And so also his face is smiling. Imagine that he has a smiling expression, a loving smile for us and for all sentient beings. So that is the expression he has. And then now he has 4 arms. So with those 4 arms, his first 2 hands, he's got 4 arms, and so the first 2, the hands, are joined in prayer at his heart. And then there are the lower 2. And so, they're being below the front 2, there are 2 lower ones, and so then imagine that in his lower right hand, he holds a crystal mala. So a crystal mala in the lower right hand, and in the lower left hand, he's got a white lotus flower with 8 petals. It also has a stem. So that's what he's holding in his left hand. And on his body, he wears white silken upper robes and scarves. So he's got like these scarves and robes. And his lower part of his body, he has a skirt or lower robe made out of silk. He also has a jeweled tiara, earrings, and so forth. All of the robes and ornaments and accoutrements. And he's wearing a Krishnasara skin. A Krishnasara is a type of antelope. So it's like a kind of antelope. That's what it probably is, and so the Krishnasara skin is covering his left shoulder. And so imagine him like that. And then imagine on the crown of his head, there's the Lord of his family, the Buddha Amitabha, in the Nirmanakaya form, with his hands in equipoise and legs in Vajra posture. Then imagine that noble Avalokiteshvara has like a backdrop or a backrest, a stainless moon. So it's like a backrest or curtain behind him. So in brief, imagine that this Avalokiteshvara is the embodiment of all Buddhas Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions combined into one. So that is how we should visualize him. Now, generally, with this meditation on the deity, it is, as I said before, above the crown of myself and all beings throughout all space on a white lotus and moon from a tree is Chenrezig, bright white and shining lights of 5 colors. His smile, his hands, and his gaze compassionate. With his 4 hands, the first 2 are joined in prayer. The Lord, who holds a crystal mala and a white lotus, he is bedecked with silks and precious jewelry. He wears a deerskin up and robe, and Amitabha graces his crown. He sits with the 2 legs in Vajra posture. His stainless moon supports his back. He is the union of all sources of refuge. So we recite these words slowly, reading slowly. And as we read these words of the text, we should remember the meaning of each of them as we read them. Now, with visualizing deities, it's like I said this morning. Some people are able to imagine or visualize like this, and some people are unable to. There are different differences as to whether we can or cannot, depending upon our own physical condition. So the main thing is it happens because of our constitutions, and so for this reason, so the main thing is that for me, for example, visualizing the image of the deity, that is important, of course, but what is most important, so many people think that the image of the deity is like a painting or a drawing. Or that it's like a statue, a sculpted or a cast statue. Like a cast statue. But I think it's like that, but I wonder, is that really it? The main thing is that when we visualize the deity, we imagine that above our own and above the crowns of all sentient beings, there's the white lotus. Now, a white lotus, it's something we've all seen. None of us have ever seen Avalokiteshvara. We've never seen anyone with 4 arms. But a white lotus, we see those all the time. We actually see them. So we wonder, what good does it actually do to visualize a white lotus? We might wonder, why do we have a white lotus over our head? That can't possibly benefit my mind. But it is a symbol. The secret mantra is all symbolic. They're symbols, and what is symbolized. You join that symbol with the outer and inner situation so that we can understand the connection between the outer and the inner. So to understand what a symbol represents is extremely important. Therefore, the reason why you should visualize a white lotus is that the white lotus, what it represents is that the white lotus normally grows in a really filthy, kind of dirty, muddy place. But the flower itself, the white lotus itself, is really attractive and beautiful. Similarly, in this context, the inner meaning of the white lotus is our renunciation, our resolve from emancipation, the wish to emancipate ourselves from samsara. That is what it represents. So the white lotus symbolizes our desire for emancipation. So we aren't just visualizing a white lotus flower. So it's not just meditating on a white lotus. When we think about what it symbolizes, then there's some meaning there, right? And then above it, there's the full moon disk, as it says. Now, full moon disk, the moon is like a seed. So what does visualize a moon do? The moon symbolizes relative bodhicitta. It represents relative bodhicitta. This is because the moon, what it means is that all of us have love. All sentient beings, even animals, do have love for their own children or for their parents and so forth. They do have that love. But our love is biased. We are loving towards those sentient beings to whom we are connected, and toward those sentient beings with whom we have no connection, we aren't loving. So that's how it is. So our love is biased. So we imagine that the full moon disk means that our love is complete, like the full moon disk, unbiased and full, complete. It is a perfect, complete love. That's what we imagine. So when we join the symbols and their meaning, then there's something to understand, right? So merely being able to imagine the shape or the form doesn't help. It is important to contemplate the meaning. If we can think about what is symbolized with feeling, then at that point, the forms will just naturally come along with that. So for that reason, the main thing is that it's not merely a physical form. That alone is not enough. Thinking about the meaning that is symbolized is very important. And so for all of these reasons, that's one aspect of it. Now from another perspective, we are visualizing Noble Avalokiteshvara not only above our own creds, but above the heads of all sentient beings. And naturally, when we think that someone as special and important as Noble Avalokiteshvara is above our crown, then naturally the thoughts and all of the afflictions that naturally are in our mind will automatically be pacified. When we direct our minds at Avalokiteshvara, then we aren't really making leaving any opening for any other thoughts to arise. And so for that reason, we are naturally able to pacify them. So that being the case, we think that Noble Avalokiteshvara is present, that he's the union of the power of the love of all the victors. So naturally, from one perspective, when we focus our minds in this way, it cannot be interrupted by the afflictions or by any other thoughts. And not only that, the power of our loving kindness and compassion can increase and become more powerful. So for these reasons, some meditation on the deity is not as if we're visualizing the form of the deity, as if it were a drawing or a painting, nor do we imagine that it is molded or sculpted. Instead, we imagine that it's our living, breathing wish for emancipation and for relative bodhicitta. It's not just thinking of it in mind, but actually seeing them in our field of vision. So just like it is live and vivid, real. And likewise, it's really powerful. When we think of relative bodhicitta as being like a moon disk, then it's not like we're just thinking of bodhicitta with our brains. It's not just a thought in our heads. At that point, think of it as a moon disk. Like usually we see the orb of the moon in the sky, and its light fills the entire world. And so when you say that relative bodhicitta has become a moon disk, then what this really means is that relative bodhicitta has become like a really powerful tool that we can use. We have the feeling that it is something that we can see and grasp, something powerful we can grasp in our hands. And so this is the differing that comes from doing this. That is the visualization of the deity. So that's how we should do the visualization. The next part, the second part, is accomplishing the yoga of the body, speech, and mind, becoming the deity by way of shining and gathering the light. So we say it is shining and gathering the light, but mainly it is what it means is mantra recitation. So what this is excuse me. That's not quite right. That's not what it is. This is the mantra recitation. Now the mantra recitation now has two different sections. So the first part is supplicating and invoking his mind stream. It means supplicating Navalokiteshvara and invoking or inspiring him. And then the second section is called accomplishing the yoga of the body, speech, and mind and becoming the deity by the way of shining and gathering. So the first of these is the supplication. The supplication reads, "And stand by falls your body as white, a perfect Buddha crowns your head, you view beings compassionately. I bow to Avalokiteshvara." That is a supplication. And so what this is saying is, so ourselves, foremost among all sentient beings, above our crowns, there's the noble Avalokiteshvara. We imagine he's present above the crown of our heads. And so since he's present there, so now we need to think about, well, which direction noble Avalokiteshvara is facing. Now I think it's probably fine to think that he's facing towards you. And the reason is that he needs to be looking at you with his compassionate eyes, right? So he can't be facing away with you, he must be facing you. And so his face is directed towards you. And so we and all the sentient beings who we are visualizing near ourselves are praying in unison to noble Avalokiteshvara, like with 100% focus and trust in him, asking him to please free all these sentient beings from the 6 realms of samsara. And once they've been freed, to bring them to the state of liberation and omniscience. Please bring them, please guide them to the state of liberation. This is a supplication we make. And so the prayer that we recite is the one I recited before that begins, "Lord, and stand by false, your body is white." Now you can recite that supplication 21 times, or 7 times, or 100 times. There's no difference. It's best to recite it until you get a real feeling within your mind. Not only that, at this point, you can also recite other praises of Avalokiteshvara, such as the one from the chapter called Teaching All Methods from the Sutra of the Fortunate Eon. You recite that one here. You can also recite the praise of Avalokiteshvara written by Bhikshuni Palmo. Or you could recite the praises of Avalokiteshvara in lamentation by Acharya Chandrakirti. In brief, you can recite any of these supplications that are rich in blessings. At this point, a secondary supplication is the secondary aspects of this supplication. So that's also fine. But basically, we need to discover and generate confidence and trust in noble Avalokiteshvara. Likewise, we also need to think, you know, you understand. I entrust my entire life and situation entirely to you in this and in the next lifetime. I trust you completely, 100%. I'm entrusting my mind to you entirely. We need to develop that kind of trust and confidence in noble Avalokiteshvara. Therefore, you can recite any supplication that you know, whichever one you have feeling for or longing for. It really doesn't make any difference which one. So that is the section called Creating a Connection by Supplication. So the second aspect of the mantra recitation is called Accomplishing the Yoga of the Deity by way of shining and gathering light. So above we pray to Navalokiteshvara one-pointedly, and by praying, we supplicate to invoke him. And because in invoking him, by encouraging him, then generally from the body of the Avalokiteshvara above our crown, there shine rays of light, of 5 different colors, but primarily white. There are infinite rays of light. And they're the 5 colors, but white is the strongest color. And they strike me and all sentient beings just by striking us. It is like how lighting a lamp in the darkness dispels the darkness. All the ignorance that has been in our mind streams from beginningless time is like the pitch black darkness that the rays of the sun or the light have never touched. It is like dark gloom. So when the light from Noble Avalokiteshvara strikes us, it is like the darkness that has never been touched by light for many, many eons. We think that it cleanses us of all the dark gloom of ignorance that has been in our being since beginningless times. Likewise, all of the heinous acts, the misdeeds of body, the misdeeds of speech, the misdeeds of mind, and all the other misdeeds, such as the 10 non-virtues, and the acts that are similar to them that we have accumulated since beginningless time, have all been purified. And we think that any violations we have done of the vows and of Samaya, anything that we have committed, that all of these are also purified. Likewise, we think that we have received in our being the blessings of the body, speech, and mind of Noble Avalokiteshvara. This is what we imagine. And so, at that very instant, we receive all the blessings of the body, speech, and mind of Noble Avalokiteshvara. And because of receiving the blessings that are inseparable from his body, speech, and mind, we ourselves transform into the body, into the noble body or form of Noble Avalokiteshvara. Likewise, the light strikes all the sentient beings of 6 realms that we have been imagining around us. And because of this, all these sentient beings are transformed into the form of Noble Avalokiteshvara. And the abodes of the 6 realms, also the places where sentient beings live, the external environment of the world becomes the pure realm of Amitabha, the realm of Sukhavati. After imagining that everything is transformed, the bodies of all beings in the 6 realms of samsara become the body of Noble Avalokiteshvara. All of the speech that is directed by the mind of a sentient being, and all the sounds that are not directed by the mind of a sentient being, such as the sounds of nature, all become the sounds of the 6-syllable mantra of Noble Avalokiteshvara. Likewise, all of our thoughts and memories are also purified and become the empty awareness of Noble Avalokiteshvara, the essence of the mind of Noble Avalokiteshvara. And in this way, we imagine that all appearance, sound, and thought are transformed into the nature of the great bliss of the appearance of the deity. The essence of the body, speech, and mind of the deity. So that's what we imagine happens. Now, there are many different purposes and reasons for visualizing these in this way, but we don't need to go into it in detail. The main thing is that we ourselves become Noble Avalokiteshvara. Sometimes I've thought about it like this. imagining that we are transformed into the essence of noble Avalokiteshvara has a particular purpose, I think. This is because when we think that we're noble Avalokiteshvara, means that since we're noble Avalokiteshvara, it's not so easy to get angry. It's not so easy to get jealous. When we're thinking, I'm noble Avalokiteshvara, it's not so easy to get angry or jealous or envious. So our ordinary appearances and our ordinary clinging to thinking of ourselves as the way we ordinarily appear, they're blocked. We think that everything is untrue and illusory. Now, if we have some understanding of understanding, having an understanding of emptiness helps a bit, right? So when we think that everything is untrue and illusory, we do not have such attachment and clinging to it. In particular, visualizing that form of noble Avalokiteshvara inspires us and increases our capacity. This definitely happens in any case. As we think this way, as we recite the words, from praying this one-pointedly, light shines from the arduous body and purifies the impure karmic appearances and confused mind. The outer world becomes Sukhavati, the body, speech, and mind of the beings within become Chenrezig's body, speech, and mind. The appearance, sound, and awareness and emptiness are inseparable. You should think of the meaning of what I just explained as you recite this. And then after that, you recite the 6-syllable mantra Om Mani Padme Hum of noble Avalokiteshvara. Now, that's the main practice of the session. In any case, you recite these 6 syllables. So there are many different explanations of the 6 syllables. And probably it's best to talk about those tomorrow. Basically, reciting Om Mani Padme Hum is like the main portion of the session. So as we discussed above, first we went through the preparation, going for refuge and rising bodhicitta. Then we went through the main practice, visualizing the deity. And following that, we went through the recitation of the mantra. So we recite in that way, in that manner, that way that it's done, like in that order. So when you recite it in order, like there's a feeling that builds up, right? If first of all, the refuge and bodhicitta is not good, then we can't really get any feeling out of the main practice of visualizing the deity. And if we don't have a good visualization of the deity, if there's no visualization of the deity, it's difficult for there to be any feeling when we recite the mantra. So like the earlier ones are like the foundation for the later ones. So the early sections are extremely important. So we need to recognize that the early parts are the basis for the later ones. And when recognizing that, if we give them a little bit more emphasis, it'll work well, I believe. So probably that's enough for today. Because if I teach too much today, I won't have anything left to say tomorrow. It's because I've already been through 3 of the sections, and there are only 6. So only 3 are left, and so if I say too much today, I'll run out of anything to say tomorrow. But I would like to take this opportunity to say that it's difficult for us to work out how to do any question and answer. But if you have any questions, please write them down on paper and give them to our organizers. No, we won't be able to answer all the questions, but the organizers can choose a few of the questions. Now, some of the questions are going to basically be the same, and some are ones that aren't so easy to discuss in public. So the organizers will choose the questions, and among those questions then, and probably at most I can answer 10 questions, and I'll try to give an answer. So they'll pick the questions that I answer. Now this won't happen, but if you can give them to the organizer tomorrow morning, I can probably answer them in the afternoon. So if you have any questions, please write them down and give them to the organizers. And then I'll try to see if I can answer them. So that can work out. I'm not able to be there in person this year, but there are probably people who have important questions. So if I can give a good answer to those, I think it'll be beneficial. That's how I think. So once again, I would like to say thank you to all of you, and we will see each other tomorrow. Thank you.